The Season 7 update has some of the best balance changes we've seen in a long time, both in terms of quality and quantity. The weapon meta will be shifting a good bit, as we have the complete and utter destruction of one of the strongest weapons in the history of CODM, along with the introduction of several meta contenders, which I will do my best to cover over the course of this season. In this video, we'll be talking about one of these new challenges, the ICR-1. This is another case of a weapon that I have already covered on the channel, but just as it was the case for the Chicom, it received a massive buff which alone warrants a remake. This was already a super underrated weapon, as you've likely seen in my in defense of for it, but now it is easily one of the strongest options in the game as far as assault rifles go, and that is because the ICR-1 is the ultimate utility gun. Here's why. Before we get into the stats, what exactly changed with the ICR-1 that could possibly make me want to revisit it? Let's start with what the devs did to one of its mandatory attachments, the Macro Mag IFS. Its ADS time penalty has gone down from plus 40% to plus 30%. This is a sizable reduction to the weapon's ADS time, effectively shaving off 25 milliseconds. When you factor in the other attachments, this weapon will no longer have slower than average handling. Following the same theme, the mag's movement speed penalty has also been reduced, going from minus 6% to minus 4%. Just like the ADS time buff, this puts it in line with the average flex assault rifle. But now we move on to the main course, the meat and potatoes of this season's buff. The base weapon's damage in the initial damage phase has been increased from 30 to 31. On its own, it doesn't do much since it is still a 4-shot kill. That is until you factor the damage multipliers you get from the combination of the YKIM Integral Suppressor Light and Macro Mag IFS. Previously, you needed at least one lower arm or chest shot combined with 2 stomach shots to get a 3-tap. Unless you mixed in one lower arm and one chest shot, landing even a single upper arm or leg shot will result in a 4-shot kill, giving you a very slow 4-tap time to kill. Since you're encouraged to aim high with this weapon, it was not unrealistic to snag an upper arm shot, and this made your 3-tap consistency less than ideal, which was actually the main reason this gun wasn't meta prior to this season. After the update, it is now possible to 3-tap without the need for upper body shots, and if you manage to mix in one lower arm or chest shot, that will pretty much guarantee that 3-shot kill. This makes its 3-tap potential way more consistent. In fact, it is arguably on par with the other meta 3-tappers such as the HVK-30 and DRH. Now we can get into the actual stats of the weapon. I shall be comparing the ICR-1 against the other meta 3-tappers, those being the DRH, the HVK-30 which also got buffed this season, and the USS-9 since that gun plays more like an assault rifle rather than an SMG. Starting off with the lethality, the ICR can reliably 3-tap in the initial damage phase for a super competitive time to kill of 200 milliseconds. If this number sounds familiar, that is because this is identical to the USS-9, which is really impressive since that is already one of the best SMGs in the game. Compared to the others, this is faster than the DRH but slower than the HVK-30. This 3-tap range extends out to 22 meters, making it the second shortest out of the 4 weapons here, only beating the HVK. Beyond this range, the ICR will 4-tap out to infinity for a time to kill of 300 milliseconds, which is still decently competitive. It is also possible to extend its 3-tap range out to 40.7 meters if you land one headshot mixed with one chest shot. Ever since its release, the ICR has always prided itself as a high accuracy weapon, and that still remains true even in its current state. Its BSA is sufficient for the ranges you typically find in standard multiplayer, so no issues here, and its recoil is some of the best in the game. The kick is extremely low and the pattern is very simple. The first 30 shots are straight vertical, and it will then start leaning to the right for the remainder of the spray. This means that even novice level players are capable of beaming at range with this gun. Thanks to the buffs this season, the ICR's mobility and handling are standard for flex assault rifles. The ICR has a pretty standard ADS time of 265 milliseconds, being in between the HVK-30 and the USS-9, although these weapons are so similar in terms of handling that you basically won't notice the difference. Its mobility is also fairly average, sprinting at 6.06 meters per second and strafing at 3.06 meters per second. These values are not bad, they just aren't the real standouts of the weapon. What does stand out though, is the mag size. Out of all the 3-tap ARs, the ICR has the highest ammo capacity at 65 rounds. This is over twice that of the other meta 3-tappers and is closer to the lighter LMGs in terms of sustainability. This gives you the real estate to take on multiple enemies before having to reload or even pre-fire for extended periods of time and spray for wallbangs. As a trade-off, you do have a slower reload time, taking 1.66 seconds for its tactical reload and 1.74 seconds when reloading from empty. But for the amount of ammo it has, this is not bad at all and can be considered relatively fast. Speaking of the mag, let's talk about that for a bit. The ICR's signature attachment, the Macro Mag IFS, is what sets it apart from the other weapons. Aside from the obvious of massively increasing the weapon's mag size and being one of the 2 attachments that allow it to reliably 3-tap, this attachment also gives this weapon some of the utility of an LMG. For starters, this mag increases the weapon's penetration values, and this can be stacked with FMJ, resulting in a penetration value of 100%. This means that you do not lose damage through walls. This is a very unique trait that very few weapons have, and the ones that do have it are not quite as practical compared to the ICR. The RAL MG is the most viable alternative here and is actually one of the best LMGs in the game, but this gun demands a very passive playstyle, so you're nowhere as flexible as the ICR. The MG42 with the 13mm anti-material rounds can do this as well, but considering that the 250 round belt is basically mandatory in this gun, it is not worth using. The Odin with the subsonic heavy ammo has terrible bullet speed, making it unreliable at range. The Kilo 141 with the 100 round drums is just a bad LMG due to its extremely slow handling and mediocre time to kill. The BP-5762 has terrible sustainability due to its poor ammo capacity, and the 30-06 ammo conversion on the Vargo is a surefire way to turn it into one of the worst guns in the game. This, combined with the ICR's great time to kill and large mag size, means that it is one of the best guns when it comes to wallbanging. Although it can't penetrate heavy materials such as metal, so the RAL still remains the king of penetration. That's what she called me. But on maps such as Firing Range, Nuketown, Crash and Standoff, which mainly consists of light to medium surfaces, the ICR is incredibly dominant, as you can take out enemies behind cover, while they can't reliably damage you. And if you want to, you can pair this with aggro grenades to see enemies through walls and maximize that penetration. That is also what she said. This mag also massively improves the weapon's bullet impact up to 1.55, which is on par with LMGs. As most of you know, whenever you get shot, your point of aim will shift based on the direction you're being shot from, and the magnitude of this is affected by the hit flinch of the weapon you're holding, multiplied by the bullet impact of the weapon you're being shot by. You might think that a faster firing weapon will deal more hit flinch since you are landing shots in a shorter amount of time, but this is not the case. This is because of a lovely hidden mechanic called flinch cooldown. Basically, whenever you get shot and flinch, you have a 100 milliseconds window before you can get flinched again. This is to prevent faster firing weapons from disrupting your aim too much. So a gun like the SO14 Wildfire, despite having high bullet impact, will only cause the enemy to flinch on every other shot, since its fire interval is shorter than the flinch cooldown. But the ICR's fire interval is perfectly synced with the flinch cooldown, meaning that every shot is guaranteed to deal that higher hit flinch at the fastest rate possible. This allows the ICR to essentially force the enemy to miss by disrupting their aim, especially if their gun has higher hit flinch. So combine this with the ICR's already great mid to long range performance, and you have a weapon that is incredibly oppressive to fight against at range, as you put the enemy at a massive time to kill deficit, since you hit more shots than the enemy while making them hit less. The only ways to reasonably survive this is to use a weapon that has incredibly low hit flinch, such as the XM4 or LC10, or use toughness, but that also means losing out on quick fix or gung ho, which are the two best green perks in the game. Now all of this sounds really good, perhaps a little too good. Fast time to kill, great accuracy, decent mobility and handling, large mag size and LMG benefits. So is there a catch to this gun? Well, I've already touched on the shorter 3-tap range that this gun has, but I would like to go into more detail here. The reason its range is not as good as guns such as the DRH or USS-9 is because this gun basically does not let you boost its range. You can't use the monolithic suppressor or any of the extended barrels since the YKM integral suppressor light is mandatory, as it improves the weapon's 3-tap consistency and helps to offset the penalties from the macro mag. If you swap this attachment for the monolithic suppressor for instance, not only do you hurt the weapon's 3-tap consistency, you're also making its ADS time incredibly slow, as you're looking at a difference of 22%. So range boosting is out of the question for this gun. The only other option is the long shot perk, but I shouldn't have to explain why losing the ability to wallbang is not worth having 2 meters longer 3-tap range. There is actually one more flaw that this weapon has. While the ICR deals a lot of hit flinch, it ironically takes a lot of hit flinch too. That is because it has a hit flinch value of 0.77, which is quite high for assault rifles and is almost SMG level. So if you wish to counter the ICR at range, you can use a gun with high bullet impact such as the RAL MG, the SO14 Wildfire, or another ICR. Yeah, the best weapon to use against the ICR is itself. So even with these downsides, is the ICR a meta weapon now? Now I don't think the ICR is just a meta weapon. I think they straight up overtuned this weapon. The ICR is supposed to be a mid to long range passive assault rifle that has the utility of an LMG. But since they made its 3-tap potential so consistent along with buffing its mobility and handling, the ICR has transitioned into an incredibly versatile flex assault rifle that is very lethal at close range while not losing its mid to long range capabilities. There are currently 4 3-tappers in the current meta. The HVK-30 has absurd close range lethality, being the only one to have a sub 200 milliseconds time to kill, while also having a relatively fast fire rate for a 3-tap weapon. This comes at the cost of having the most recoil out of the 4 options here, and a short 3-tap range of 17.5 meters. The DRH has phenomenal 3-tap range going all the way out to 40 meters. This is essentially the long range option, which is pretty ironic considering that the ICR was formerly a main AR. The downside is a small mag size of only 25 rounds and the reliance on the upper body shots to maintain its 3-tap potential at range. The USS-9 has top tier consistency due to its extremely forgiving multipliers while having decent range. It also has incredibly brain-dead recoil, and since it is an SMG, you do get much better hipfire accuracy, which makes it much more useful in close quarters. But to gain its AR-like performance, you do need to sacrifice a lot of mobility, which brings it to the same level as other assault rifles. And the ICR-1 slots itself as the jack-of-all-trades utility weapon. It has excellent close range time to kill on par with the USS-9 while having solid consistency. It has great accuracy thanks to its low recoil and good BSA. It is the only meta 3-tapper to have a good mag size. You get the insane utility of 100% penetration and high bullet impact. Its mobility and handling are quite fast for what is supposed to be an AR-LMG hybrid. Its 3-tap range is not as good, but 22 meters is not completely terrible. And sure, you do have high hit flinch, but this is partially offset by the fact that you deal a lot of hit flinch back. This makes the ICR one of the easiest to use and most versatile weapons in the game. Its LMG utility is especially useful in the current meta, since the 2 most popular weapons in the game right now are the BAL-27 and Switchblade X9, both of which have pretty high hit flinch. This makes the ICR a great counterpick option as it can completely shut them down past close quarters, and it even slightly edges them out up close in terms of pure time to kill. The ICR is also, hands down, the best assault rifle for search and destroy, since sniper rifles are pretty common and the ICR's bullet impact will make it basically impossible for them to accurately land a shot. The penetration is also great for offense for taking out enemies behind cover. Okay, before we get into the build, I know some of you will ask about the 38 round fast reload since I talked about it in my previous ICR video and would like to know if it's still worth using. Back then, I mentioned that this mag serves as a copium attachment for players who cannot stand the slower mobility and handling of the macro mag, but now that it has been buffed and is not even slow anymore, this benefit is no longer applicable. The main reason you would use this mag now is if you really want to boost the weapon's 3-tap range. You don't have the mobility and handling penalties from the macro mag, and you do gain upper arm multipliers. So this gives you the clearance to build for range using the monolithic suppressor and OWC ranger barrel. This plays a lot like the KN-44, except you lose some 3-tap range but gain much better 3-tap consistency since you can 3-tap to the upper arms while the KN can't. This is a decent way to run the weapon, but the macro mag build is overall better since you sacrifice all the utility when using the 38 round mag, and you have worse 3-tap consistency since you don't have the stomach multiplier. Building the ICR-1 is very simple since there is really only one way to build it. Start with the macro mag IFS. This is a mandatory attachment since it improves the damage multipliers which allow you to 3-tap, along with providing an insane amount of utility. YKM Integral Suppressor Light. This is also a mandatory attachment as it improves the weapon's 3-tap consistency even further, improves the weapon's handling, and provides concealment. FMJ for the maximum penetration, no stock for mobility and handling, and the granulated grip tape for better BSA. If you want to use this gun as a KN-44 side grade, replace the macro mag IFS with the 38 round fast reload. Then you're going to replace the YKM Integral Suppressor barrel and FMJ with the OWC Ranger barrel and the monolithic suppressor to maximize that 3-tap range. And that covers everything there is to know about the ICR-1. Just like the Chicom, this gun has gradually gone from one of the worst guns in the game to easily one of the best. And this is just one of the few new meta contenders that this season has to offer. But as for the weapon itself, I was already a fan of the ICR since its previous buff, just because of its utility alone. But now that it has great time to kill and consistency up close, it is definitely going to be one of my main weapons, at least for this season. But that's just my experience from using the weapon, so what do you guys think about the ICR-1? Do you think that you'll be giving this gun another go now that it's been buffed? Feel free to let me know in the comments. And if you found the video helpful, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. But until then, I'll be seeing you in the next one. Goodbye.